downloaded the game almost instantly afterwards, and I was looking forward to seeing what you'd be able to do with all of that footage. I'd love to know where you actually started. Like, what were you looking for initially in terms of deconstructing how Ireland went about this victory?
Yeah, I went straight to set piece, to be honest. I went straight to set piece because that was my fear going into it. That was our Achilles heel, and we 100% line out, stole two of theirs cleanly, disrupted another two. Um, and all five of our tries came from line out source, so two Maul tries. And I know they had a man in less in the forward pack, but I just thought the aggression and the detail around our line out Maul build, even with Bundy Aki and Robbie Henshaw joining for the last one, how we I suppose had a really good how we were really sensitive to where the weak spot it was in that Maul, and then just attack that and just never give him a chance to recover. The composure around our line out and Ty Byrne was calling it, and just our ability to get in and win ball where it was free and just get it away from there. We never really gave France a chance to settle. There was way less movement than there was in New Zealand. Against New Zealand and in the World Cup, it was very simple, very good speed of throw, quality lift, etc. And good variety. I mean, we used Joe twice, and he probably was someone that the French wouldn't have been saying, look, we he's a danger man. We got to try and get into his space. So I just thought everything about it was crisp, and certainly if we were to be good in that area again next week, I think then we can actually say, look, that issue is solved. And then I wanted to see Big Joe. I wanted to look at Big Joe again because there's so much hype about him. He's one of these fellas who just come from late. Obviously, his story in school, played fourth in junior cup team, thirds in fifth year, and only made the SCT in sixth year. The Irish schools somehow they thought he was overage, and he actually missed out on the Irish schools because they thought he was older than he actually was, and ended up playing Leinster 19s that year instead of under 18s, which he should have on Irish schools. So it's funny how mistakes can be made, but it didn't set him back. Obviously, look, we played under 20s with Jack Crowley, and look, as I said, when you have a coffee with a current player or a coach, and they start talking about this fella like the way they talked about Joe, and even Tony Smead was on to me about him. He obviously had him, and he's had a lot of talented players come through Trinity. You kind of know there's definitely something there, and then we saw it with Leinster this year in the European Cup in particular, and then gets a chance for Ireland. But you don't expect a fella making his Six Nations debut to basically be as dominant as he was, and we know. He's brilliant in the counter rucks. We know he's a good scrummager. We know he's good in maul, but his defense again, and his ability to move, he just moves really well. Like he moves way better than Estabet. Like he actually does. I'm not saying he's as good as Estabet, yes, or etc. But like that is like big, strong men. So if you look at what France are obsessed with, it's Miafu. Miafu having the Toulouse second row. He's a French passport. He would have been playing at the weekend only he got injured ahead of Willemse, but he doesn't play. Willemse plays. If Willemse had been injured, Roman Taufania would have started. He got injured on Thursday, so they brought in Tuilagi. You know what I mean? That like there's a premium, and not just use the French lads for example because they have them. The other countries don't have them to a certain extent, but that profile of lock is absolute gold. But I had Paul Willemse as a 20-year-old. I signed him from the Bulls. He never could move like Joe McCarthy. He was hard hitting, tight headlock, mean, horrible, aggressive. He could build a pack around him, to be fair. But he didn't. He just didn't cover the ground. He wasn't explosive in contact. Either Roman Taufania, Tulagi has a bit of it, to be fair, and Miafu has a little bit of it. But neither I'd say Miafu or Tulagi have the capacity to go for 65, 70 minutes with the same amount of activity as Joe. I think Joe is very fit.
But he's lighter as well, Birch.
Yeah, he's lighter, but he's lighter. So obviously, yeah, no, he's lighter, which is good if you can pack the punch that you want. So, like I would say, yeah, you're 100% right. So the other lads maybe have well, yeah, Tuilagi has maybe 25 kilos on him, but and that's a lot, and that is impactful. But if you can have the same amount of dominance in collisions with less weight, well, that's like the reason we get excited about the heavy lads is because it generally leads to collision dominance. But Joe has that collision dominance with less weight and more mobility. So, which means defensively he's not a liability. Which means he can, kick chase better. All those little things that over the course of 75 minutes or 70 minutes, whatever he plays, will add to the team performance. So, yeah, when I look back and clips, one little error, but no, it was brilliant. And to be fair, when you have someone like it just takes a spark to light a fire. Like when you have one more player who can get you over the gain line, everybody else looks more dominant and physical, and that's the thing. So we were watching that match, going, Jesus, we're so powerful as a team. But you'll all look more powerful when you're on the front foot. But who's going to get you on the front foot when it's an arm wrestle? And I think that's what Doris, Porter, and McCarthy, to name just three of that four pack, the three biggest for me. Sheen will get you there as well. To be fair, a little bit differently, but they like that. He gives us one more of those, which can actually make the Josh Van der Fleer carries, the Ty Burn carries, easier and more effective.
Yeah, and the reason I brought up McCarthy's weight is because I think there are almost two brackets of powerful lock, and they don't all get lumped into one in terms of like McCarthy's around 119, 120 kg. I think 119 would be his like optimal weight, which is in the Etzebeth bracket to me. I think Etzebeth's around 117. The other guys that we've talked about, Mayafu, it's 145, Tuilagi
Yeah,
149. Like, but it feels like McCarthy can pack so much power into a relatively smaller frame, like or smaller at least relative to these absolute giants. Like Skelton say is 145, but you could see McCarthy conceivably in the future having that kind of an influence on a team.
yeah, and look at 100%. And there's a power to weight ratio, and 100% he would be packing a punch there. His younger brother Paddy again was playing tight head last year in the 20s. I saw him in school a lot. He's now moving across the loose head. Apparently, Joe. When you look at Joe, he's a big frame, but he's not a monster, right? But Paddy's is similar in that he seems to be way more powerful than his weight would have you believe. In terms of the effect he has in defense and attack or cleaning out rooks. He has obviously serious power, and like you can optimize that in the gym. But realistically, you're born with a lot of it, and it looks like both those two brothers have ample amount of it.
Yeah, a little bit of the West Cork thing, maybe. I think their father is Castledown Bear. There's a touch of the Ty Furlong kind of bear strength about them.